Hi, my name is Naomi Serrano Sanchez, and today I will be speaking about genetic fallacy. This speech will be to inform the audience on genetic fallacy, to explain the concept of genetic fallacy, and illustrate its significance in critical thinking. Imagine dismissing Einstein's theory of relativity simply because he has unkept hair. Does that not sound absurd? Well, that's exactly what genetic fallacy is. Understanding logical fallacies like genetic fallacy helps us to think more critically and make better arguments. With extensive research on logical fallacies and critical thinking, I have gained insight into how these tactics are used in various forms of different types of communication and their impact on argumentation in various contexts. So simply understanding fallacies is a broad, but then really understanding how genetic fallacy really can come into play when it comes to arguments and discussions. The genetic fallacy undermines some reasoning by attacking the origin of a claim rather than addressing its merits. So basically, just really understanding or really taking the focus off what is being said and more where it's coming from. So we're not really paying attention to the detail of what is being told, but more so who is saying it and where are these details coming from. Today, we will explore three main points. First, we will define genetic fallacy. Second, we will explore examples of this fallacy in action in everyday life. And finally, we will discuss the importance of avoiding this fallacy for our own reasoning and for our own communication. Let's begin by defining what genetic fallacy is. The genetic fallacy occurs when a claim is judged as true or false based on an origin rather than its context. So again, we're really taking a look at more of how it's being delivered and who is delivering rather than what's being said. So the information being provided isn't really that important. It's more so making a judgment on, is this information true or false based on where it's coming from. For example, dismissing a scientific theory because it was proposed by a controversial figure is genetic fallacy. So really just saying that theory does not work simply because it comes from a person that has controversial theories behind. So it's really not taking a look at what the theory is saying, but more so judging it just based off where it's coming from. Now that we understand what genetic fallacy is, let's look at some real life examples that we can encounter on a daily basis. In political debates, arguments are often dismissed based on their speaker's background or affiliations rather than the argument's validity. So we see this happen every day where in politics something is being told, but then it's dismissed simply because the person that it's coming from is being judged, basically. So the claim is actually just discarded and not really listened to simply because the judgment is already made based off the person who is delivering that information. Historical examples such as the dismissal of Galileo's heliocentric theory because of its opposition to its church. So we see this theory being dismissed simply because it has opposed the church. So really, again, the theory is not important, but more so because it's opposing the church, it's already dismissed without even being considered. Understanding these examples highlights why avoiding this fallacy is crucial. Avoiding the genetic fallacy promotes fair and logical evaluations of arguments. So when you're into a discussion or communication or argument with somebody, trying to avoid this genetic fallacy is crucial because you're going to take away from the importance of the information being told, and you're going to take away from that actual information being relayed simply because the genetic fallacy is into place. So we are already dismissing that information. We're making it non-credible because of where it's coming from. And this is essentially what genetic fallacy is. It encourages open mindfulness when we stay away from it and focuses on the evidence and reasoning behind the claim. So when we can really avoid using genetic fallacy, we are really opening our mind to just having more open conversations and really trying to understand each other in these conversations, which I know is a goal for everybody within their communication. When you take away this fallacy, you're really focusing on evidence and you're really focusing on the reasoning behind the claims that are being told, as opposed to who is telling them or how it's coming off. So So really taking a focus on the information that's being relayed, which I feel like should always be the main purpose whenever we're having a discussion, argument, whatever it is. We really should be taking in and soaking in the information rather than judging it based on where it's coming from. Understanding how important it is to avoid genetic fallacy will help your communication overall. And now let's summarize the key points that we've discussed. But before we do that, I really want to hone in on that, really avoiding the genetic fallacy. It will help strengthen your communication. It will help to build a more concrete communication that you have with everyone, and will help you take away the most from communication. It will help you take away the most from conversations and really soaking in on the information that's being said to you. So it really does help your communication overall. So avoiding genetic fallacy is something that I feel a lot of people should practice. Now, like I said, let's discuss the key points that we have discussed. In summary, today we define genetic fallacy, examine examples of it in its action in real time, and discuss its importance in critical thinking. The genetic fallacy undermines logical argumentation by focusing on its origin rather than its context. By recognizing and avoiding the genetic fallacy, we can engage in more productive and reasoned discourse, allowing us to evaluate ideas based on their merit rather than their source, which is the goal overall in communication. It's really to hone in on the ideas, hone in on really what's being said to us, rather than just making judgments based on the person that's relaying them. So really giving the communication a fair shot at actually helping you understand a concept that you may not know. So I think genetic fallacy is extremely important to understand, and once we can understand it, we can avoid it. And I think avoiding it at all costs will always help a person with their communication. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have learned from the genetic fallacy that I have discussed today, and really just help to implement this into your everyday life and your everyday argumentation with somebody, just to strengthen that communication and help you take the most away from your communication. Thank you.